Let's talk about finding zeros of a function. You can use synthetic division to find with zeros if you don't have them. But let's jump into an example where you can find all the zeros of, let's say, f of x is equal to x cubed plus 5x squared minus 16x minus 80, given that we already know a factor. So if we already know a factor, if I can do division, then I can figure out what the quotient is, and then maybe that will be easier to factor from that point. So let's go with a 1x cubed 5x squared minus 16x and a negative 80. And I already know at this point that I should get a remainder of 0 because they told me that x plus 4 is a factor. If you don't know a factor, you could go hunting for zeros by putting different numbers up in this box, and if you ever got a remainder of 0, you'd then know you have a factor. But this one was given to me in this case, so negative 4 is what goes up in the box because that means negative 4 is a 0 because x plus 4 is a factor. Drop down the 1. Multiply by the thing in the box. 1 times a negative 4 is a negative 4. Add the column. 5 plus a negative 4 is 1. Multiply by the thing in the box. 1 times a negative 4 is a negative 4. Add the column. Negative 20. And a negative 4 times a negative 20 is a positive 80. Add the column. And I did indeed get a 0 for the remainder, as I was expecting. So what this means is I have x cubed plus say 5x squared minus 16x minus 80 is equal to x plus 4 times the coefficients on that quadratic that I left is a 1x squared plus a 1x minus 20. And again, remainder of 0, so I can see at this point that, yeah, x plus 4 was a factor. So now I'm going to try to factor that quadratic, and I think it's going to factor. I think it's going to be something with a 5 and a 4. And I'm going to go with a plus 5 minus 4. See if that worked. X squared minus 4x plus 5x. Yep, that gives me a positive 1x. And a plus 5 times a negative 4. That gives me the negative 20. Cool. So this is my polynomial all factored out. Again, I wanted to find the zeros. So set that equal to 0. Well, either this x plus 4 is 0. That gives me negative 4. Is one of my zeros. Or x plus 5 is 0. So that gives me negative 5 is a 0. Or x minus 4 is 0. So that gives me x is equal to 4 is 0. So here are my 3 zeros of my polynomial. So if you're given a factor, do some division, either synthetic or long, your choice, and then you get down to something that might be a little easier to factor. So keep repeating that thought until you get down to a quadratic, because quadratics we know how to factor.